Okay, it's a prototype and a concept all kind of mashed together. Okay, prototype. And that will be the first working model that will go by for a new product. Okay, if it's really simplified, let's say pepperoni pizza. We'll make a pepperoni pizza using fresh dough and water and mozzarella from the grocery store, and we'll make a pepperoni pizza just like you make one if you're working in an independent pizzeria. Okay. We'll then look at that and we'll start working with our product developers, these guys on that cross-functional team that I mentioned earlier. Product developers and dough scientists and guys that specialize in nothing but cheese and our buyers and our marketers, and we'll all start working with this gold standard, this prototype we put together, and start translating it into something that can be mass produced. Okay, so, well, we can't buy little 4-ounce packages of 4-mil pepperoni. We need to find somebody that can give us 100,000 pounds every week. Okay, and this tomato sauce, well, we can't cook the tomato sauce in our plant for 12 hours, so we need to figure out a way to make that out of a dry spice blend tomato paste and water, but it has to taste the same. This cheese, we need 100 million pounds of cheese. That's actually how much we use in a year. Where are we going to find that? So we have to substitute all the ingredients from this perfect little recipe and go through a scale up, and all through the whole time we try to make it taste as good as it did originally. So that whole concept is called the gold standard. And during that process, we'll be looking at all of our competitors, okay? Competitors. So the people, unfortunately, we have to not only make this taste good, but we have to sell at a price that's competitive, right? Kraft sells pizza, and so do we. So how do we make our pizza taste as good as theirs and hopefully make it at the same price level, if not cheaper? So,
how many teams do you have? Or it's just one single team that is just on one single project?
Yeah,
you said you would have picked like the top 3 or whatever, and out of those top 3, just pick one.
That's a good question. And there's a couple of different ways to answer that. Right now, I think when I looked at our portfolio, there's out of the 3 separate businesses that Schwann's, home service, food service, and consumer brands, there's about 120 projects that are flowing. Okay, and they all have teams of people working together. So there's not 120 individual teams, but there's 120 groups of people. Some of those, I worked on 10 to 12 projects at once. So it kind of, as products are launched, new ones are coming in. There's always kind of this wave of maybe 80 to 100. Right now we're a bit high. 80 to 100 projects that are in the works. So 80 to 100 teams.
Do some of the projects melt like teams with other projects?
Yeah, they do, and that's this whole idea of shared learning within our company. That's been a bit of a struggle. Schwann started off as a dairy, and the home service route trucks, right? The little yellow trucks that come to your door. That's when people see Schwann's, that's what they think of. Okay, but then we grew up and we had this. We started selling finished products to restaurants and food service, college, universities, and that's our food service portion of it. Okay. And then we have consumer brands. That's what you buy at the grocery store: the Bruschetta, Red Baron, Tony's, Asian Sensations, and so there's really 3 companies under one big roof. And when when we're developing something for home service, the route trucks, inevitably they're going to want to maybe look at that for retail product for consumer brands, or maybe Aramark or Sodexo at a college university would like to buy it and put it in their food court. Okay, and it doesn't make sense just to silo it and make it just for one company. So yeah, we'll share it all out, and it's been something that our companies have is strived to do better, because it's been very sort of, like I mentioned, siloed. We'll be this little team working within this company on this floor in this building, but then and then I'll go to lunch, and then they'll be like, well, hey, we could have sold that. And another thing, so we're trying to figure out how do we, at the very beginning of the process, how do we share that to the whole company to make sure that it can be sold maybe into another market. So that's just in a real quick nutshell, the development process.
I have a question about the development process. Okay, so we talked about the gold standard in our last class, so I understand where that comes from, that kind of development. But this part where we start with the marketing trends, do the ideation exercises, the ideas submission form, who came up with that part of it? Did you guys get to decide that, or does the management or some kind of HR specialist come up with that way? So I'm just curious how much you get to decide.
The process or the?
Not the gold standard, I understand the research and the product, but the coming up with the ideas, so.
The ideas will, usually starts with, with either our team.
Right, but how did you guys decide to use like the ideation exercises as your approach to generating new ideas? I'm just curious if that came from
that's a good
outside
question. I'm trying to think where that process came. Yeah, I think before we centralized all of our R&D into Marshall, which was in 2001, they were all plant-based. It's been broken out across the country. And I think the company, before that happened, had used a lot of consultants. And that was sort of the model that they used. Either, an outside consultant coming in, the company doesn't know anything about you, so they have to sort of go through this ideation exercise to try to get to know you, and we kind of adopted that model.
So you guys like that approach, and you got to, I'm just curious how much that process comes from you guys and how much you get. So when you're looking at a company you want to work for, do you, I would think it would be good to have a creative process that you feel good about instead of having someone manager.
There has to be some rigor around it. Otherwise, you're just sort of willy-nilly shooting ideas or throwing. We do we use the term shotgun approach, where you're trying to, the shotgun, the pellets, and the shotgun blast are your ideas. And so you're standing at like 50 yards and you're trying to hit a target with a shotgun. You're throwing all these ideas at something, and hopefully one of those little BBs is going to land on the target.
Right, and it's a fine line when you're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
It's a really fine line.
Well, there's so many ideas that we come up with that there's no way we could ever make money selling it. I mean, that's half the fun of it. It's just like, well, you have all these ideas, and just because an idea doesn't work now or today doesn't mean it's going to be not viable 5 years from now. So we have this huge database of tens of thousands of concepts that we look at annually, and before we start another ideation or another round of doing this, we'll go back and look at things that we've already tried. And market conditions change, economies change. There's 1,000 forces that are driving the factors that make us, our decision making. So we'll continually look at that data bank before we start anew. That's one of the things in cooking is there's almost at this point everything's been tried. And even when we start with recipes, I don't sit down and think, okay, they want to have a brownie ice cream. Well, I got to figure out this brownie recipe. I'm going to need cocoa. I'm going to go to the internet, right? There's 1,000 brownie recipes, and I'm going to find a good one and then incorporate that. So at this point, everything's been done. We just try to build on the learnings of those that came before us. So, you have a question?
Yeah. What's your target audience?
It depends. I mean, everybody. No, it's we'd like it to be everybody. It depends on the product, and we have different products that are geared towards different demographics. Just within our three major brands of pizza, we have Tony's, and this is in tiers of quality. Tony's, Red Baron, and Freshetta. And then we also make Wolfgang Puck, his pizza. And they're all geared towards different age brackets and income levels and demographics. So for Tony's, we're looking at, hey, we're looking at you guys, college set, looking for a good value and gut fill for a couple bucks, okay? Red Baron is more of like, mom's quick solution for a family of 3 at home, and Freshetta is like, someone who's looking for the best frozen pizza on the market, and they're not so concerned that it costs $6.99, and so it's, and then home service is a whole different ballgame there. There we're catering to entire, we have 400 products, and so it really depends on which business unit and which product tier. So,
which business unit do you prefer?
I work with our consumer brands, so I work primarily with the retail products. I like that side of the business. It's